All right. So I'm thinking we are live now. Hi everyone. Welcome to my second live stream on my channel. And today we are going to be talking about Python as a machine learning tool. And I have an expert here with me because when it comes to machine learning and Python, he's very, very good at that. So please, can you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you for welcoming me, and thank you for inviting me for this. It's really great to be here. So my name is Ashutosh Patak, and I am a machine learning engineer. And yeah, I mean, I have been working with Python for like I don't know, like 5, 6 years almost now. And yeah, it's really fun. I so like from my undergrad. So I did like my undergrad back in I graduated back in like 2020. So like almost from like a couple of years before that, I have been working with Python. Interesting. It's really interesting. I love it.
Wow, that's awesome. What's made you decide to, learn Python? For some people, they say that Python is too easy. Some people say Python is too hard. So, why Python? Why not JavaScript? Why not any other language?
Okay, yeah, that's a that's an interesting question. So I actually started my like coding slash programming journey with with C. So back in like high school, we had these like programming classes. I mean, actually, the first thing that I actually like wrote the code or something that was HTML, but after that, it was C. HTML is not really a programming language. Sorry, guys. So I started with C because that was like part of the curriculum, and I really fell in love with it. Writing code. I remember that back in those days, like so where I come from in India, we had those like blue MS DOS terminals, and it felt like coding in a sci-fi movie or something. So I loved doing that, and then once I decided to do my undergrad, um, I chose computer science, and in my second year, I think there was I was like very much interested in machine learning because I learned about TensorFlow. But I was thinking like, is there any language which I can use for machine learning? I searched about like C, but C was not like doing. There was no like libraries that supported machine learning in C, as far as I
Yeah,
can remember. I didn't do like a very thorough research. I was not like a researcher back then, but so that's why I chose Python, and I loved it. As soon as I started with Python, I really loved it. It was really intuitive, really easy to understand, really easy to experiment with, a lot of different things. So I did like a Python course as well during my undergrad, and yeah, I took it from there. So I mean, I stretched out that answer quite a lot, but in
that's
short,
right.
basically, I started from like C, and then I moved to Python for machine learning.
Oh wow. So how was your transition from C to Python? Was it like from hard to easy or hard to harder?
It was definitely hard to easy, honestly. So I mean, C is one of those languages where you have to like do everything, right? Python actually takes care a lot of stuff in behind the scenes, but in C, like especially like garbage collection and memory usage, all these things, they actually take a lot of, you have to think about it a lot. You
Yeah.
don't want to miss those things, because then you can create like vulnerabilities in your software. But at that time, when I started using Python, I was not aware that Python takes care of all those things. So I was still like trying to find ways in Python to do garbage collection. I remember the first couple of months when I started learning that, I was like, wait, is it this easy actually? I mean, come on. But yeah, it was actually really, really, really fun to learn Python. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. So I've never tried C before, but I know that I think last year or 2 years ago I did a bit of Java, just like the basics of Java.
Okay.
And having um background knowledge from Python, Java was a bit able to for me to understand. The only
Mhm.
thing that I didn't like was the fact that I have to define the data type before
Right.
the variable. That was very, very annoying, because compared to Python, where you just have to write the variable and then give it a value.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was really, really annoying.
And also like once you assign a value, you can change that, right? So in Python, if you assign
Yeah.
like a number to a variable, later you can assign even a string to that variable, right?
Yes.
But that's not the case with like Java and the C++ and statically typed languages. So yeah, yeah, that's definitely one thing that I kind of, so sometimes I think like that should be the case. So that's why like in most of my code that I write right now,
Yeah.
I give it like data type, even in Python. So how, I don't remember what it's called, but how when declaring like a variable or a method, you can just give like a colon and then you can define the data type.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I do that a lot right now because I don't want any surprises later on, especially like in machine learning. It's really hard to kind of um, go back and kind of like debug, at least right now for me. So that's why I try to do that. But
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, and then I have another question. So why did you choose to go into machine learning? Why not software engineering? Why not software development? Why not data science or data analysis? Why machine learning?
Okay, yeah, that's actually a really, really good question because I did not have any idea what is the difference between data science, machine learning, AI for that matter. I thought that everything is just same when I started machine learning, but
Yeah.
okay, so the reason that I went into machine learning was because, honestly, because no one else in my university or in my college during my undergrad, like no one else was doing that, and I took it as an opportunity to kind of you know learn something which is different from um, from what everyone else was doing, which is mostly was like software development, honestly,
Yeah.
and also an opportunity to learn something and then share it with students like my fellow classmates in my college, because since no one else was doing that, I was once I learned it, I was in like a very I was at a place where I can share the knowledge with everyone else, so kind of like propagate that newly learned information as well. But I just, in the beginning, as I said, like I just looked at machine learning and I was like really, really um what is the word I was really like astonished, like, okay, is it really possible to teach computers to do stuff? Like I have been hard coding those programs so far. Possible for computers to do that for me? Come on, I mean, so that was something that flashed in my mind, and then I was like, okay, this is like really interesting. And having grown up seeing sci-fi movies, I was like, right away I was like, okay, this is something that I really want to do.
Yeah.
And no one else was doing it, so I was like, let me just start something. So that was kind of like the reason why I went with machine learning.
Oh, wow, that's really, really good. So for me, I think the reason why I decided to focus more on Python was, first of all, Python was the very first programming language that I ever learned, and that my brain could actually understand. I did learn JavaScript, but at some point I left because it became a bit difficult. And then
Yeah.
I yeah, and then I just decided to stick to Python for backend development, and it's been going great. And then over the years I've come to learn that Python is not just for web development, but you can also use it for data science, data analysis. You can use it for machine learning. You can use it for artificial intelligence. And to me, Python is like the ultimate programming language. I may be biased, but that's my 2 cents on that.
No, I 100% agree with you. Python, especially like in the last few years, I would say like around since around like 2020 or something, it has really
Yeah,
like come up as like a language which can do almost everything. You know,
yeah,
because I remember when wanted to do like web development back in like 2016 or something, and I was learning Python at that time. I I was actually I wanted to see like I wanted to avoid JavaScript honestly, because I saw my friends working with that and struggling a lot, so I wanted to avoid it. I was like I'm already learning Python, so let me just try using that, um, and I think I learned about Flask at that time. So Flask was, I think it was still like kind of new at that time, and the documentation was not as fleshed out as it is today.
yeah,
So I actually had some struggle, not as much as the people who were working with JavaScript, but
yeah,
I did learn, yeah, a little bit of web dev using Flask, and that's where kind of I understood that Python can do machine learning as well as web dev. And that's how kind of I started work building projects using Python, and making it so that people can actually use that. So yeah, mostly for my college projects though, honestly.
oh, yeah. So I did, or rather I have used Flask and Django in to build Python projects. And in as much as I use Django more often, I still feel like Flask is like my go-to Python framework. It's lightweight, it's
Mhm.
easy for me to use, and whenever I need to think of building a very simple, fast Python project that don't really need so much functionality or need a difficult architecture,
Mhm.
I use Flux.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I tried Django. I think I tried Django once, but I was like always since I learned like Flask first, I was
Yeah.
comparing everything with Flask. So I was like, do I really need to learn like two different frameworks which do the same thing? So that's why I just stuck with Flask. But it's been like I'll tell you this. I had to learn JavaScript, sadly, later on after graduating, because so at the place that I was working after graduating, they were using, so I was doing like automation testing,
Yeah.
and they were using a lot of like JavaScript and Java. So I avoided Java also when during my undergrad, because I was like, so there were a lot of things going on online about how difficult Java is and how you should avoid it. So
Yeah.
I kind of like I saw those a lot of posts, and I was like, let me just avoid Java for now. But when I started working, I had to learn Java, I had to learn JavaScript, and I kind of realized, okay, I mean, JavaScript is good for a lot of different things. Definitely, I mean, it's not as easy to learn JavaScript as compared to like Python, I would say, but or at least for me, you know. So I learned JavaScript. I did some automation testing using that. I also learned Java and Selenium, and I was doing automation testing using Java and Selenium as well, and I really enjoyed it, at first, because I had not done any kind of automation, so it was really interesting for me.
Yeah.
But after like a year or a year and a half, it was like kind of the same thing, so it got repetitive and I got bored, honestly.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. I see.
Mhm.
Well, So before we continue, to everyone that is watching, if you have any questions on how to on machine learning or Python, you can leave it in the comment, and we would answer that. So now let's say you did not go to grad school to learn machine learning, and you want to learn machine learning on your own. What's is a part, or rather, what are some courses that you would take? Because I know that machine learning is something that I may want to try in the future. So, what are some courses that you would advise me to take?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a really great question. So I this so okay. So the reason I let me just circle back a little bit. So
All right.
I learned machine learning during my undergrad, but I learned it mostly by myself. Online doing courses, and
Yeah.
I'll just share those courses in a couple of minutes. But so I learned using, like, online courses and doing some online exercises and things like that, doing some projects by myself, and then I graduated. So I wanted to work in machine learning, when I graduated, but unfortunately, due to circumstances, I got into automation, and I loved it for a couple of years, but then I got bored. So I then decided, that is one of the reasons actually I came for, like, my masters. I chose to do masters
Yeah.
in machine learning, specifically because I wanted to work in machine learning, and because I wanted, I was really interested by what this field was doing. And remember, like, this is before all this AI boom, right? So ChatGPT released in what, like, November 2022,
Yeah.
and I started learning machine learning back in like 2017, 2018. So this was before, like, way before all of those things were happening, transformers and LLMs and things like that. I was actually really interested in that, and that's why I chose to do my master's in machine learning. But for whoever, whoever is listening this, and they are really interested by, like, what AI is doing right now, especially related to, like, chat gpt, and how you can use, these kind of llms. There are a lot of great courses online. I mean, on YouTube. I mean, honestly, you'll just find a lot of these amazing creators, like Sophia, sharing knowledge for free, honestly. And most of my knowledge that I learned in machine learning is, free from YouTube. So um, you'll find, there is a lot of machine learning related explanation from Andre Karpati, on YouTube, but that is mostly related to, like, transformers and chat gpt related stuff. If you want to start from beginning,
Yeah.
if you want to start really from the beginning, then the best course that you could take right now, according to me, is on Coursera, and it's machine learning specialization from Andrew Ng. He's from, I think it's, the course is by Stanford. So that is the machine learning specialization that would be, the first thing that is probably for, you can start really actually from the beginning and there, and then you can build up. And once you've done that, you can do the deep learning specialization again on Coursera. It's also on deeplearning.ai, so I guess you can choose either one of them. But again, it's from the same instructor, Andrew Ng. And
I've seen it.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, both of them are like phenomenal courses. And that's how I learned back in 2017. So the course is now refreshed because of, lots of new technologies have come come in since then. But back in 2017, I used these courses, and, learned machine learning right from there. And honestly, that was kind of like one of the best decisions that I made, because Andrew actually, he's like the best kind of like instructor, best teacher so far I found in machine learning, like really, really breaking down concepts from the the basics, really, from first principles. You will try to, if even if you're not really good at math, honestly,
Yeah.
you learn a lot. I mean, not a lot. You learn everything what he's trying to teach you. He doesn't focus a lot on, what is actually how to mathematically prove this equation, things like that. No, he focuses on the practical usage, and that's what I like, and that's how I learn.
Oh, wait. So does that mean that for someone to really be good in machine learning, they need to know a thing or two about maths?
Okay, so this is where that your earlier question comes in, right? You asked like,
Yeah,
how did I choose between like machine learning, data science, AI, and all these things? So
yeah,
to become a machine learning engineer, so this is where like the distinction comes in. Machine learning engineer mostly works um, on creating models, deploying models, and basically working on the programming side mostly. They're not really worried about um, how to come up with a solution to this new problem and things like that. Just have to implement. That's where machine learning engineer comes falls into the spectrum. Data
yeah,
scientist, on the other hand, if you are looking for, if you want to be someone who looks at data, and maybe there is a problem which is like a novel problem that's not yet solved, and maybe not yet solved in the sense in the sense that it's not yet solved for your particular use case. You can actually look at the data and then try to do data preparation, data cleaning, all the data related things, then come up with a solution, maybe think about how to use this data in this particular use case, write your own solution, maybe you
yeah,
might have to write an algorithm or something. And then, so this is like this entire process, right? And that's where like that's what data scientists do. And if you want to be a data scientist, I would suggest that there is a really good book called Mathematics for Machine Learning. And if you read that book and then you jump into like machine learning, you will all you will be like a great data scientist, honestly. And it's really 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 like it's the book explains all these concepts in machine learning, very targeted concepts, so you don't have to learn about things that are not really relevant to machine learning. um, you learn about it. It's a really great book. Like they explain in detail about what's happening behind the scenes and things like that. So data scientists do I would suggest like data scientists are supposed to know the mathematics behind the machine learning. But machine learning engineer, if you know that it's really good, it helps you understand like what's going on. But honestly, even if you don't know a lot, if you know a little bit, that's also fine. Machine learning engineers can work without it.
oh, oh, oh. Wow. All right. So, Alandi asked, okay, so he said that he's currently learning Python and would really love to transition into machine learning. So, what do you advise that he should learn after learning Python?
Okay. Okay. Alandi, that's a great question. So you're currently learning Python, right? So um I would suggest that the learning honestly, the learning never stops, so you will keep learning Python throughout your life. I would that's the nature of things. But when you feel that you're ready, you can just directly jump into machine learning. And honestly, that course that I just mentioned, machine learning specialization, that would be a great next step after learning Python. um, you can actually start coding basic machine learning algorithms right from, I think, right
Yeah,
from the first week in that course. So that's like really really um, interesting. Also, I think it, there is also like a free version of that course on YouTube. I'll try to share that link if I find it. But I think on Coursera also you can just go through that course for free with some limited projects and things like that. But that's a great course after after you learn Python.
awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, this may seem like a very stupid question, but is there really any relationship between data science and machine learning?
That's not a stupid question. That is a great question because as I said, I was also really confused about it, for the longest time. So, is there any difference between data science and machine learning? Yes, I mean, as I said before, machine learning mostly deals with implementing these algorithms, right, in code, and doing all the writing the algorithm, and then deploying this machine learning model and things like that, which is mostly like related to mostly the modeling and the kind of like the deploying part. You take care of these things as a machine learning engineer.
Yeah.
Data scientist is like kind of like an end-to-end person who knows everything from the beginning to the end, or who does everything from the beginning to the end, which is starts from like data collection, and then does data cleaning, data preparation, maybe data analysis, and then after data analysis they will load the data, and then write come up with a solution which kind of works for that particular data, and then does a lot of experimentation. After experimentation, they do some A/B testing or things like that, and then after deployment they will again look at the data, how the model is performing, kind of feedback that kind of the outcome of that deployment, and try to see if they can refine the model and things like that. So it's kind of like end to end.
Yeah.
That's what they're involved in. Um, so that's kind of like the main difference. It's like machine learning engineers is kind of like a focused, where they only focus on like machine learning modeling and deploying kind of things, whereas data scientists is like more of end to end job.
Oh, I see, I see, I see. Oh, thanks for clearing that up. So I've been hearing a lot about deep learning, deep learning, deep learning, and I genuinely don't know what deep learning is. So please, can you tell me what deep learning is, and how does Python help in building deep learning models?
Sure. Yeah. 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 So deep learning it's really interesting, right? There is like a huge difference between machine learning and deep learning, and I mean the
Oh,
main difference is basically machine learning is mostly just like statistics, which is like written in code.
yeah,
That's I mean, some people would not agree with me, but most would, I would say, because it's just statistics in the end, right? Machine learning is just statistics and probability. So you kind of like model it, you write it into code. That's what machine learning is. Deep
yeah,
learning, on the other hand, deep learning is more of trying to mimic what neurons do in your brain, right? That's kind of like it comes nearest to. So in deep learning you work with things which are called like neurons, which are like you stack like layers of neurons, and then you send the input in, and then
yeah.
these neurons, lots of neurons, they do like lots of different computations, and in the end they give you like an output. So that's the entire deep learning deep learning subdomain is basically based on. It's based on these neural networks. Machine learning is, again, it's just like statistical algorithms, which you write them in code. You basically write like mathematical formulas in code, and that's how machine learning works. So this is kind of like the main difference. And even today's these large language models like chat gpt and claude and perplexity and what have you, these are like all kind of like a sub part of deep learning itself. They are also like working using neural networks. So that is kind of like the main difference.
Okay. So in summary, deep learning has to do with neural networks, and machine learning has to do with more of statistics and
Yeah,
maths.
yeah,
Hmm,
exactly.
awesome. So now, besides Python, what other tools do machine learning engineers use? Because I only know of Python and I think R.
Right. It actually really depends on which library, I mean, what kind of application you want to make. So for example, if you are like mostly interested in doing like data analysis, for example, if you want to like you have lots of data coming in and you don't know what to
Yeah.
do with it, maybe you just want to do some data analysis and show it as like a dashboard or something, right? So you can use like a you can use a JavaScript library for that. So I think TensorFlow has great JavaScript support for these machine learning libraries. um, you can also use R is kind of like the go-to language for scientists right now, and people who are like in academia for
Okay.
data analysis and data visualization, because it's really easy to do that in R. um, and so JavaScript, R, and recently I think like a few years ago, these libraries like PyTorch and TensorFlow, they have like support for Java as well. So you can do machine learning with Java as well. So for example, if you're writing like an application, right, a desktop application or whatever with Java, then you can use machine learning libraries in those applications as well.
Oh. So Python and R, are there any other tools or any other languages that machine learning engineers use?
Okay. In Python, right?
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
no, not really in Python. Like, okay, as a machine learning engineer, besides Python, what
Okay.
other tools, yeah, do you use?
Okay. Cool. Um, all right. I mean, so there are a lot of different tools, honestly. Most of them are in Python, or at least I have worked with most of them, which is in Python. Um, but other than Python, let me think. Let me think. I I have worked a little bit with R, so I can say, there are libraries in R which you can use for doing that. But
Yeah.
other than that, I have not really worked with anything else for machine learning
No.
except Python.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's fine.
No, but honestly, I'll tell you why. So, I mean, the
Yeah.
reason is that, Python really offers you everything, right? As we said in the beginning, it's kind of like the go-to language, and it's the language for, for almost everything. So,
Yeah.
and it's it offers you a lot of flexibility and offers you a lot of different options to implement a lot of different things. So for example, you can do data cleaning with Python, right? You can load data, you can do data visualization, you can write these machine learning algorithms, you can deploy with Python, you can monitor your deployed models with Python. And for each of these steps there are a lot of different options. You can choose different libraries for all of these steps, or you can use just one single library for doing all of these steps. So there's
Yeah.
like very very like a lot of flexibility in Python, and that's why like I never really thought of kind of jumping from Python to something else. But that was kind
I
of the
get.
yeah.
I mean, Python offers so much flexibility, and sometimes it icks me when someone that don't really know much about Python say that Python is uh should just be restricted to a particular aspect of tech, and I'm like, no, no, it should not. No, it's very very flexible.
Yeah, exactly, and especially like now there's like a lot of optimization that is also being like done in these Python libraries, right? So for
Yeah.
example, recently I think a year or so ago, pandas, which is like a really famous library for working with data in like a tabular format.
Yes.
So usually like up until I think last year it was really slow. I mean, not really slow, but compared to terabytes of data, that it was really slow for doing that. But they have recently that there has been a lot of optimizations in that library. Now it's like 50 to 100 times faster,
Wow.
and a lot of optimizations have been going on in these libraries, especially because the community is so strong, and so many different people are working with these things, even on like enterprise level, right? So there is like um a lot of uh, incentive to make these libraries work even better, because they are being used so readily everywhere. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I would say like, someone who says that, Python is not really a language which can handle things, I would say that go and learn Python and try it out by yourself, and then try
True.
and see if that's true for you.
Yeah, I agree with that. So someone asked, Ibrahim asks, is it with constant practice or how do you just start solving problems with Python? So I'm thinking he is asking about the learning curve in Python regarding machine learning.
Okay, I mean, yeah, that's a great question. So even 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 whether there's machine learning or not machine learning, practice is definitely something that you have to do, right?
True.
um, for example, like a lot of people do lead code, right? They're preparing for interviews and things like that. um, and lead code, I mean, there is a lot of pros and cons. We can keep talking about lead code, why it's used, why it's not good to do hiring and things like that.
Yeah,
But the main thing that lead code helps you do is practice writing these algorithms, right?
true.
And the more you practice, the more you get better, the more you understand different nuances, different kind of like ways in which you can implement this algorithm. It kind of like opens your mind to different things which you probably hadn't even thought before. So practice is definitely something that you have to do. It's like a must, machine learning or not. And especially when it comes to machine learning, it it really requires a lot of intuitiveness, right? Machine learning is actually, there are a lot of different small parts in machine learning. For example, let's talk about, there's something called like hyperparameter in machine learning, right? And
Okay.
even if even if you have like read all the theory, even if you have perfect theoretical knowledge of machine learning, until and unless you write the algorithm and play with those hyperparameters, those like different, so hyperparameters, you can imagine like different variables, and they need to have like, i- depending on what values those variables have, your model will output different. So it comes from intuition after doing a lot of practice, after doing a lot of implementation. That's when you'll kind of like understand, okay, these variables should have like this value, and that is totally based on you, what value you set. So only with like a lot of practice and a lot of implementation, you'll understand these things, even if you have like perfect theoretical knowledge. So yeah, definitely, like constant practice is definitely the way to do solve problems, honestly.
Yeah, and just to add to what he said, but by constant practice, I think that another thing that would really, really help, if you want to get better in a language like Python or you want to get better in a tool, you need to also build projects using that. I have noticed that the more I build projects about Python, the more I really understand how Python works. Like a couple months back, I was testing out Streamlit. I've never used that before, and I heard that is a tool mostly used by data science to either visualize a data or something that has to do with data. And I use that to build a simple AI project. And the way that I was really, really, really able to understand how that tool worked was by building a project. So yes, constant practice will help you understand the tool that you want to learn or help you understand the language that you want to learn. And building projects too would help you as well. So you don't just get stuck in the tutorial hell phase of your learning.
Yeah, 100%, I agree.
Awesome. Okay, so um let me think of questions that has to do with Python and machine learning. I think you've probably answered most of the questions that I had in mind. Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so I mean, I guess the thing is that there could be a lot of different things. That, for example, if someone wants to learn machine learning, right?
Yeah.
And you said that you want to like jump into it, or maybe like tip your toes and see like how it goes. uh,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of different things that go into machine learning, right? One of the things is when you start, um, and you see a problem, for example, on Kaggle. Like Kaggle is like, by the way, Kaggle is like a really good website where you can go and practice, machine learning, problem solving. For example, it's like you can compare it with like lead code. For example, lead code is for like coding. Kaggle is for
Yeah.
like data science and machine learning. So you can practice a lot of questions on it.
Um,
Uh, it's spelled Kaggle. Um,
I think I've seen that.
yeah, it's like a great resource for anyone who wants to like try solving machine learning problems. And even if you're like a beginner, right? Even so, I remember when I was a beginner, I still used to go there and try, like, registering myself into competitions and things like that, because in those competitions, like, there's an option to like go and see the code. So people, what they do is when they're like registered to these competitions, they submit their notebooks, the Jupyter notebooks, as like a resource, as a beginning, like something where you can jump start from. So they will do all
Yeah.
the like the data analysis and data preparation and all these things. And instead of doing all those things yourself, as a beginner, it's really hard to kind of understand what to do. So a lot of people, they share their work in those notebooks, and it's really really great resource to just go and even just read that code, because you'll understand how to use machine learning for this particular problem. um, and it's just a great resource to do, you know learn just by reading, or even try to do some competitions yourself. So that's like a great resource.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at the website now and it seems it has courses and like a roadmap. So the courses I'm seeing here is this intro to programming, this Python, this intro to machine learning. So I'm guessing that for anyone that wants to become a machine learning engineer, if they follow these courses, by the end of it, they should have more than enough knowledge on machine learning, right?
Yeah, exactly. Those are some of the best courses, honestly. I've done like a few of them, and they actually like take you through the code. You have to do like a lot of coding yourself as well in those courses. And also, they don't take a lot of time. So if you're like, for some reason, if you're like time crunched, and maybe you can like give only like 30 minutes per day, that's also
Yeah.
fine. You can just go through it, um, do like one lesson a day, and that way you can, still you can learn a lot of things. Those are some of the best courses, honestly.
Oh, I see. Okay, so Ibrahim asked, please can you recommend some kind of projects he can practice with? Right now he just doesn't want to ask Chat GPT.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So I can understand where Ibrahim is coming from, right? In the beginning, it's really confusing to, kind of like decide which products to go ahead with.
Yeah.
um Honestly, so I can tell you where I started from. I started from um, doing those basic, like, um, the handwritten digit recognition, right? Doing the using the MNIST. So MNIST is like very popular data set, MNIST. So you will find like a lot of projects using that data set.
Okay.
So you can just search, like, MNIST data set projects, and then you'll find a lot of projects, even on Kaggle. So you can, download the data set from Kaggle. Kaggle is also like a great resource for getting the data sets from. So you can download the data set from Kaggle, and you can see just in Kaggle. So Kaggle, actually, okay, so I'm just gonna focus on Kaggle because it's like a great resource for anyone who's
All
beginning,
right.
right? So you'll find like data sets in Kaggle. You'll find all the notebooks which explain how to use that data set in Kaggle, right? And one of the most beginner friendly projects is using the MNIST dataset and doing a lot of different things on it. So there you'll find like a lot of different projects on Kaggle using MNIST. So that is one. Another is again handwritten digits recognition. That is again another great project for a beginner, right? These two are related to computer vision, which is like again a subfield of machine learning. So machine learning is kind of like, let's say it's divided into uh, three, right? One is, you know, text recognition, text understanding, all the things related to text, which is what most of ChatGPT does. It also does like image and things like that, but just ignore that for now. So whatever is related to text, that is one subfield. Whatever it's called natural language processing, that is one field. Computer vision is a subfield which, you know, deals with, you know, visual data. For example, you know, recognizing things in an image, or, you know, doing anything related to video, or understanding, you know, what is going on in video, and maybe, you know, um, put a bounding box on this. For example, in my video frame, for example, if I just screenshot this and send it to a computer vision algorithm and say that, you know, hey, can you find books in this image? So it's going to just put a bounding box here, right? It will say that, you know, hey, I see some books here. So that's kind of like what machine computer vision deals with. um,
Um,
so these are kind of like different subfields. What I just told you, like the MNIST data set and the handwritten digit recognition, those are related to computer vision. If you want to do projects related to, you know, natural language processing, then again you will find a lot of different data sets on Kaggle related to NLP. One of the projects that I loved doing in the beginning was, it's called trigger word detection. So what it does is, you know, how you say, hey Alexa or something, and then it kind of, okay, my Alexa got activated. So when you say that, it kind of recognizes that you want it to do something, right? So um, you that is what trigger word detection is, and that also like kind of comes within like the natural language processing realm. So that is actually a really great beginner project, you know, to write an algorithm which can understand, you know, a specific trigger word. You can choose any trigger word that you want. So you have to give the data as, you know, your voice. So it will convert that voice to, you know, numerical data, and then try to understand it and things like that. It's really interesting. That is also a really great beginner project. Um, yeah. I mean, these are just a couple of things that I worked with. Honestly, there could be like better projects right now. I'm not sure because I started doing this in 2017, 2018. So these are a couple of beginner projects that I worked with, and I really loved it.
oh, wow. So from your explanation, it seems like machine learning is like a large field where there are so many sub fields under like natural language processing, computer vision. Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, let me actually visualize this for you. Okay.
All right.
So the biggest, which encompasses almost everything, is artificial intelligence, right?
Okay.
So you can imagine like a Venn diagram, which is like the biggest circle is AI, right? And AI is basically anything. It could be like, it's a very vague term, honestly. AI is basically anything that a human, doing anything which requires like a human intelligence.
Okay.
So it it's like very vague. It can mean anything, honestly. But AI is that. It's like the biggest circle in the Venn diagram. Now imagine another circle within that, and that is what machine learning is. Machine learning is kind of like, you know, um, that, you know, whatever you use, you actually hard code statistical algorithms, and then you try to get, you know, the output. So a really great example of what machine learning actually does is, so how we do traditional programming, right? That is, in the traditional programming, what we do is we write the the logic, right? We have to write the logic, everything step by step. Even if we are wrong just one place,
Okay.
the program is not going to work, right? It's going to give us some error, or it's not going to give the correct output. So we write the logic, we input the data, and then we expect something, some, you know, data as well. But in AI and machine learning, it's actually really different. You input the data, as well as the output data as well, and you expect the algorithm to come up with the logic. You don't write the logic yourself. Okay, so again, I'll just explain that to you, so in traditional programming, we, for example, let's just assume like, let's take an example of a program which tells you a number is odd or even, right? It's
Okay.
a very basic program, right? If it's divisible by 2 and the remainder is 0, it's divisible by, it's an even number. If not, it's an odd number, right? So how you would do it in traditional programming, you would write the code, you would write like maybe if else or something, or maybe like a for loop or something. You would write the all of these steps. You would input a number, and then you would output, you would expect, even or odd, right? In machine learning, or in deep learning, or in entire AI mostly, what you
Okay.
would do is you would input the number, right? You would also input whether it is odd or even before like you get the output. So you would, let's say you would enter 2, and then you would also enter even, to say that 2 is even. Then you
Mhm.
would expect the the algorithm to kind of like figure out what is the logic, and then it's going to give you that logic. Now you can use that logic for any future numbers, basically. So you can use that logic for any future number. For example, now if in the future, if someone enters like 1050, right, that logic is going to determine whether it's odd or even. So that's how like kind of machine learning is different from traditional programming.
Oh, so does that mean that if someone wants to become an AI engineer in the future, the person will still need to understand how machine learning works?
Sorry, you said if someone wants to become an AI engineer, they have to understand how machine learning works.
Yeah.
um yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I mean, yes. Yeah. Yeah, so the thing is that most of AI is like this. So again, there's like a multiple different ways of doing this. The
Yeah.
one, the one, the way that I explained you right now, it's called supervised learning, right? And in this way, what you do is you give the model the input as well as the output beforehand, and then it has to
Mhm.
come up with how that input relates to that output. That's what the model does. So that is what supervised learning is, because the your super kind of the model is supervised with the output. So you're telling the model, hey, this is the input, and for this input, this is the output. But
Okay.
there is also one more stuff which is called like unsupervised learning, in which you only give the input, you don't tell it what the output is, and then it kind of like understands the patterns within that input. For example, if you give like 10,000 numbers, and you just input those numbers, and then the model has to kind of like find a pattern within those numbers, right? So that's what unsupervised learning does. These are two different things. There's also something called reinforcement learning, which, what, if you've seen the Tesla robots and things like that, how those robots work.
Yeah.
um, right, even the robots in, for example, a um, car factory, right? Most of these robots, they have learned through reinforcement learning, which is like, you tell the robot something, it comes up with a solution, it actually acts that solution, then based on that action, it realizes whether it's a good action or a bad action, which, human has to tell it it's a
Yeah.
good or a bad action, and you give it a reward according to whether the action was good or bad. And then it realizes that, okay, I got a negative reward, that means I have to change something. If you give it like a positive reward, it will, calibrate itself to, do that thing more often. So that's what reinforcement learning is. That's how like kind of like robots learn. But yeah, these are
Oh.
like the main major different fields within machine learning. And
Oh.
again, within them, computer vision, natural language processing, time series analysis, all these different things. So yeah, it's a very big field, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought that machine learning just had to deal with um maths and statistics. I never knew of this other sub fields in machine learning.
Yeah, I mean, in the core, it actually does, like, it's mostly math.
Okay.
Even with neural networks, when most of the deep learning is kind of like based on the premise that you don't really know what is going within these like network, right?
Okay.
It's really hard to understand what goes on within these neural networks because you give it an input and then you get the output. What actually goes on inside, very, I mean, not no, nobody knows honestly. It's like if it's a small network, you can actually go ahead and understand, go through each neuron one by one. But for example, if chat gpt, right, chat gpt is kind of like, uh, when we're talking about, let's say, gpt 3.5, when it was first released, it has like, I don't know, like billions of parameters, like, so for example, now people release these models with, let's say, 70 billion. For example, llama's meta has 70 billion parameters.
Yeah.
It has another version which has 8 billion parameters. So what are these 8 billion things? These are essentially like, for now, let's, for simplicity, let's just assume that these are neurons. So
Okay.
now, if for such a big network, it's not possible for you to go through each neuron and look at the output one by one, right? It would take you, like, I don't know, like hundreds of thousands of years to go through each of them. And
Yeah.
so it's like kind of like a black box, right? It's not really possible to understand how these actually networks come up with their outputs that they do. There are some ways on people which people are working on right now. It's called machine learning explainability. There's like an entire field which has sprung up, and they try to kind of like decipher what is actually going on, but it's basically like a coin toss, honestly. Until now. Maybe something in the future might come up which helps us understand these black boxes better, but right now it's just a black box.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, machine learning is like cooler than I thought it was.
I know, right? Yeah, I mean, imagine me, when I was in 2017 in my second year and I found out about this. I was like, whoa, okay, wow, this is really interesting, right? So that was kind of like the reason that I jumped into it. It's really, really interesting.
Ah, I see. So, can we talk a bit more about natural language processing? Like,
Sure.
what's that really about, and how does that help in the machine learning field?
Awesome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. So right now, what I do is I kind of like specialize in natural language processing,
Okay.
and the reason is, I would say, frankly, the reason is ChatGPT, because it's the big thing right now, and everyone wants to implement a version of that for their own companies, right?
Yeah.
So natural language processing is really interesting because up until GPT, people, what they used to do is, there were ways of, there were different algorithms where, first of all, you have, let's say, a sentence, right? You have to first, how does a model understand like what this sentence means? Because models are basically just computer algorithms, and algorithms are basically just ones and zeros. So
Okay.
how do you actually understand, like, if I type in "Hi, how are you" in a chat gpt prompt, for example, right? How does it understand what I'm saying? And that was kind of like a big problem, um, up until like 2000s. But then when deep learning came in, when neural networks came in, it was simplified a little bit. So what they did was, you have to convert these words. For example, "hi" is supposed to be, let's say, 5, comma is supposed to be, let's say, 5,000, and then "how" is supposed to be 278. I'm just telling some random numbers, right? So you
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
associate these words with some numbers, and then those numbers are then, sent as input to the model, and then it kind of like, does its thing. um, Natural language processing has evolved from that. Basically, the main problem which people had was how to, I mean, you can give it the numbers, you can give the words, each word a separate number, that's fine. But if you say, "Hi, how are you? My name is Ashutosh," and then it responds, "Hi, Ashutosh," then again you said, ask it like, "What is my name?" How is it going to remember that my name is Ashutosh? So that's another thing, right? I mean, so this was a very big problem. People came up with a lot of different, like, complicated solutions which actually worked, but they were complicated. And you know there were ways in which, like, you have to keep some connections from the current nodes to the previous nodes and things like that. But now what has happened with GPT is that they have come up with an architecture called the transformer, and this is the
Okay.
architecture which really transformed, this entire field, natural language processing. And what it allowed to do was, it has something which is called self attention, which is basically what it does is it it gives like a numerical value to each word. And
Okay.
the higher the value, let's say, the higher the value, the more likely it is that it will store it in its memory, so that if you refer to that thing later, it's going to remember, okay, yeah, this is what I was talking about. So that is kind of like the big breakthrough which happened with transformer, and that's how, like, chat gpt took off, and that's how it's working. But essentially, how these models work is, they don't know anything, they are not intelligent. They don't have, there is no comparison with human. It's just a model, it's a program. And it does, all these models like ChatGPT, Claude, all these models do is they just predict next word, that's it. So if I say, hi, how are you, they are going to take that input, then they will just predict the next word, like what is the most probable next word. That is just, I'm just simplifying it, but let's
Yeah.
assume it assumes like what is the most probable next word after this. So if
I'm
I say,
good.
hi, how are you, yeah, it's going to say like, I'm good, thank you. So that is like the most probable next few words, right? So
Oh.
that's how it works. It does not really know what it actually it's doing. It's just predicts the next most probable word. So that's all it is. That's all ChatGPT is, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, it's able to do that because it has seen, like, it's been trained on almost the entire internet data, right?
Yeah.
It has seen how these sentences are formed, and it just, according to what it has seen before, it comes up with, okay, so according to what I have seen on the entire internet, most people say, I'm good, thank you. So there you go. That's the most probable next word. It doesn't really know what it actually means, or what it's saying.
Oh, so so I think that's another reason why having the best prompts, especially when interacting with Chat GPT, can really help you get the response that you need.
um yeah, so there are a lot of different ways to get the response that you need. um you can, so I mean, there's an entire field now on it which is called prompt engineering,
Yeah,
which I find hilarious, honestly. There should,
me
I mean,
too.
why is there a field called it's like when Google first launched its website. I mean, it's like comparative to then, if someone came up with like a Google engineering, there's not a thing. It's just, how do you, even when there was just Google before ChatGPT, you actually need to know how to, search the particular query to get the actual, like, relevant results.
Yeah.
So that is the same kind of like the approach with prompt engineering. You try to word your sentence and mm, use like specific words in your sentence, so that you get like a specific response. That's all it is. So there's a lot of things that's going on in that. People try different ways of wording things. You have to kind of like try and play with the prompts to see which works best for you, and then kind of like use that moving forward.
I see. I see. So it just means that when Chat GPT is trying to give you an answer, it's more like guessing what like guessing the next word or guessing the next response, something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. No, you exactly got it right. Yeah, it's just guessing the next word.
Wow.
Yeah,
I I I never thought about it this way.
yeah.
Like sure, I knew about the prompts stuff that using the right prompts would help you get the response that you really need, but I never really knew the response or the interaction with Chat GPT to work like this.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, right? I mean, when you look at whatever the discourse is going on in the world, especially like in the media and things like that, everyone is
Yeah.
talking about, like, AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is like the
Yeah.
holy grail, right? Super intelligence is coming. I mean, I'm like, come on, guys, it's just predicting the next word. It doesn't know anything. Come on, like, it's not even intelligent. It's just a program. It's not anything. You know.
Wait, so AGI is going to be similar to Chat GPT, where it's going to like predict your next words or try to guess the response.
I mean, no. So that's what I'm trying to say. That
Okay.
AGI is supposed to be like this super intelligent, like, digital being, where
Yeah.
it knows everything, it does everything, it comes up with new things. So ChatGPT cannot come up with a new thing because it only predicts the next word according to what it has seen before, right? So understandably, it cannot, if you ask it, give me like a project which has never been done before, it will give you like a project which is probably done by someone else, because
Yeah.
that's what it has seen. So it cannot come up with new things because it's not like, it cannot think by itself. It does not
Oh,
think at all, first of all.
yeah.
So AGI is this, all knowing, all present kind of like digital being which can, do anything. It can come up with new ideas just like a human, but it is like super super knowledgeable, because it knows, it has read all the knowledge in the world and things like that. So that is kind of like what the holy grail of AI is. But
Oh,
that's not, I mean, I don't think that this architecture on which chat gpt is built on, the
okay.
transformer architecture, I don't think that that is going to be the AGI architecture as well. Like, there is something, we have to kind of move on from this. This is just a stepping stone. We will definitely come up with another architecture which works way better than this, and maybe it can come up with something. Once that is the case, once these models can actually come up with something new, that is the time when we actually think we should start maybe talking about AGI and things like that. But I don't think that chat gpt is going to lead to AGI.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
I see. So Ankit said something about engram model. So for someone like me that have no idea what an engram model is, please can you explain this?
Sure. Yeah. So that's a good that's a good way to, I mean, it's basically one of the ways to predict the next word.
Okay.
Ngram is basically like, so there is like different ways to do that. 1 gram is like how so 1 gram is like how many words you consider from your previous sentence to predict the next word. So 1 gram is like, it considers only the last word to predict the next word, right?
Okay.
2 grams is like, it considers the last two words to predict the next word. And so n-gram is basically like, you can set n to anything. So n-gram is like, it considers last n words to predict the next word. So it's kind of like that. So that's like one of the ways to do that. It was really popular before ChatGPT, but since ChatGPT has come now, transformer is used for everything. But before transformer, ngram was kind of like the main cutting edge. It still works good for some small tasks, like, for example, generating some captions for an image, for example. Ngram
Right.
could work, but now everyone is using transformers for everything. So yeah, but ngram is still like an okay model.
Okay. So for someone that still don't know what transformers are they like similar to engrams?
So it's transformer is basically like a type of neural network.
Okay.
Um, so a neural network is like, it's a network of different neurons, right? And it can be connected in a different way. So transformer is just a way in which these neurons are connected. So there's like a particular way in which these neurons are connected, and that's called a transformer, basically.
Oh,
Yeah.
I get now.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So now I know what engrams are. and I know what transformers are. That's nice. That's nice. So, I have another question. Like it just randomly pops up in my head. So I know that Python is good for machine learning and all, but are there any other languages that someone can use to learn more about machine learning? Like someone that is not really a Python fan, because I mean there are people out there that don't like Python.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, if you don't like Python and you want to do machine learning, just learn Python. But I mean, okay, I mean, so if you're working with, let's say, JavaScript, I would say that, even JavaScript now has slowly built up a good, I mean, not good, but okay, compatibility with machine learning. I mean, so there are a lot more resources on how to do machine learning using JavaScript now than before. So if you're if you're working with JavaScript, you can use TensorFlow JS. So that is a library in which you can use JavaScript in your applications to include different machine learning models and things like that. So
Yeah.
JavaScript is I think, yeah, JavaScript is okay. You can use JavaScript as well.
Um, so, what is like the difference between using JavaScript for machine learning and Python for machine learning? Is there a key difference or just the learner's choice?
Um, I would say the main difference is it's the community. It's like, from the beginning, it's like machine learning is kind of like built on Python. So there's like a lot of good things that are going on in Python by the community, right? It's mostly community led. A lot of big organizations have open sourced their libraries in Python, so community is just going bonkers with it. They are just using that, enhancing it. It's really interesting what's happening in Python. But the reason I say that, if you don't know Python, if you want to do machine learning, just learn Python. That's because that's one of the main reasons, right? JavaScript. Again, I have not used JavaScript for machine learning a lot, so I cannot say this from a very knowledgeable standpoint. But JavaScript, I found that JavaScript does not have that much um, machine learning related information out there. Like, it's really hard if you're debugging, if your model or something, it's not working, and if you're trying to debug, it's really hard to find a solution in JavaScript compared to in Python, because someone somewhere has already done that and found it in Python, so it's easier for you to work with Python. But again, if it's just like a normal application that we're working on, it's not related to machine learning at all, it's like a web app or something, then JavaScript is definitely the way, because you will find a lot more resources in JavaScript for these kind of like web app development than Python. I feel that's the case. So there's like a different, these languages are good for different things, and Python is definitely the language for machine learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now well, if you're someone that don't really like Python, you're watching this, please go and learn Python. It's good for machine learning according to Ashutosh.
Yeah, just go and learn Python. Come on, how hard it is. I mean, if you already know a
Not.
language, yeah, if you already know a language, then it's not even going to take you like a week to learn Python. Honestly, with like 1 hour a day, I guess it will not even take you a week to learn Python.
Exactly. I mean, okay, for someone that already knows, let's say, JavaScript or Java, and the person is learning Python, it's very, very easy. In fact, learning Python as your first language is not that difficult.
Yeah,
It won't be as difficult as learning, let's say, C sharp or C plus plus as your first language. Though I've met some people that learning C plus plus was way more easier for them than learning Python as the first language. I will never understand that, but
Oh
I
wow.
mean, Python, yes, yeah, I would never understand that because I know that those languages are difficult for you to understand, and Python is easier for you to understand, and you understand that more
Yeah,
than
I mean, I
Python.
would love to meet them. Honestly, I have a lot of questions to ask.
True, sure, true. Oh, Python has never been that difficult for me to understand, and as a first time learner, understanding Python will not be that difficult because once you understand that, learning another language will not be as difficult or as complex as it should be.
Yeah.
So, so I actually don't have any more questions again, and I'm really, really, really glad that we got to do this live, because I mean,
I'm really happy. I mean, I don't really do this often, and I really enjoyed this today. Honestly, Sophia. Talking about machine learning, it always brings out that inner child in me, and I loved. There was lots of great questions as well from people watching, and yeah, I loved every minute of it. Honestly.
yeah, definitely, we should definitely do another one where you build something.
Sure. Yeah, actually, that sounds even better.
Yeah.
I love machine learning. I love building. So we can
Yeah,
do
I
that.
mean, yeah. So before this life, I knew a thing or two about machine learning, and now after this, I now know what n-gram models are. I know what transformers are. I know that machine learning has to do with um, computer vision, natural language processing, and some other things. I now know, or I can explain in one sentence what supervised and unsupervised learning is.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. I mean, I'm really happy, honestly. So I used to do these like sessions on like machine learning. So I said that I learned machine learning back in 2018. So as
Yeah.
soon as I learned, I started giving these sessions in my college during undergrad, and I love seeing people have that glimmer in their eyes when they learn what machine learning is about. So I'm seeing the same glimmer in your eyes as well, Sophia. I really love seeing that. Yeah, that kind of like made my day.
Yeah, definitely. So, to everyone that is watching, if you really, really, really enjoyed this as much as I did, um, do well to subscribe and subscribe and turn on your notification, because we will be back again with another life where he would build, let's say, a machine learning model or something that has to do with machine learning.
Sure.
So, in the meantime, thank you for coming on the live, and thanks everyone for joining. This has been awesome. It has been fun, and bye.
Thank you for having Sophia. Thank you for having me. Bye bye.